to make money by changing the world. That's my sum up. I think a lot of investment opportunities, you get to make money, but it's not necessarily making the world a better place. There are a number of investment opportunities where or donor opportunities where you're able to give funds that make the world a better place, but your ability to make money off of it might be a little bit less. I think the way in which we're unique is that our whole goal for investors, for users, for us, for the future of the world is aligning capital and impact.
So imagine being offered a seat at the table before Facebook or Twitter took off. That's the scale of the opportunity behind this patent-pending AI-backed platform already attracting 45,000 pre-launch subscribers. In this episode, you'll discover exactly how investors like you are rushing to claim their seat at the table and how you can position yourself for truly outsized returns before this window of opportunity closes. So welcome to Streams to Impact, the podcast where prosperity meets purpose. I'm your host, Dr. Allen. Today, we're spotlighting one of the most exciting early-stage opportunities we've ever discussed, Yuvoice. This is an AI-powered platform that is set to transform social media from outrage-driven noise into a billion-user town square where activists become profitable and investors can capture extraordinary returns. The angel round is already underway, and windows like this don't stay open for long. If you want to learn more about Yuvoice and how to participate, head over to go.steedtalker.com/impact. Just a reminder, all information shared on Streams to Impact is for educational purposes only. It is not investment, financial, legal, or tax advice. All investments involve risk, including the potential loss of capital. Please consult your financial, legal, and tax advisors before making any investment decisions. Well, what happens when you combine Silicon Valley expertise, award-winning legal leadership, and a passion for democracy? Well, you get Isvari Maranwe, and she is the CEO and founder of Yuvoice. Isvari has represented Fortune 500 tech firms, the U.S. Department of State Defense and Energy, and co-founded a viral global network. She's a cybersecurity and AI expert, a TEDx speaker with hundreds of thousands of followers, and a civic engagement visionary. Now, she is leading Yuvoice, a platform where activists is profitable, communities thrive, and early investors stand to gain from a billion-user network. So Isvari, welcome to Streams to Impact. We are so glad to have you with us. If you would, Isvari, just tell us a little bit about what inspired Yuvoice.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Alan. You always do such amazing introductions. That is so kind of you. I think honestly, every aspect of my background ended up tying in so well into Yuvoice. I think it is always coincidental when that happens. I think sometimes life just takes you in certain directions. That's definitely what happened with me and Yuvoice. It's been a really incredible opportunity to tie in my civic engagement background, legal expertise, tech background from the Valley, government and impact background, nonprofit, even my scientific background where I learned how to code. So I am a technical founder, and a lot of the experiences that I had in physics helped play into that too. So I'm actually really lucky in how perfectly my background marries into what we're doing today. In reality, what actually motivated me and our team to really create this is just how broken the current social media space is. We were not trying to create the next big corporate giant. We are very, very motivated by there is a necessity globally for a new place for people to hang out. There were hundreds of people in my DMs on LinkedIn messaging me to ask how they could, or where they should go, how they could get involved with a new platform, how they could find a better place than LinkedIn or Twitter or the other places they were on to really have their voices heard, to not feel like they were getting squashed, and then to make good friendships instead of feeling like they were addicted to the platform and they were having negative experiences. So we really believe that online community and online town square is a human right. It is a free and fair town square, a place where you can have your voice heard, where you can meet other people, where you can impact things in your community, where you can make friends globally, and where all of this is healthy and your data is not going to sell you the next socks. We think that is really, really important to making the world a better place. It's a human right, and it's better for you, it's better for the planet. If we can also incentivize good people to become the next generation of rich and famous people, that would also be wonderful for the world and for people like your audience and like everyone who are good people as well. So that was what inspired Yuvoice, and then it sort of luckily took off from there.
Sounds like a wonderful and an amazing journey that you have been on. Well, just give us a synopsis of what Yuvoice is, just kind of a nutshell
Yeah.
overview.
Yes. So I think you had such a great description in the beginning as well. We are a new social media platform that rewards users for tangible impact. And the way we work is not only can you post on a better feed and have better algorithms and have a better all around social media experience, but we're incredibly community marketplace driven. So if you think about a traditional town square, you can go to share news, you can go to meet people, you can sell your stuff in a good, like your goods in the town square. So that's very much the model we have. Our communities allow folks to work on tangible projects towards impact. You can work on specific missions. We're integrating payment processing, swag, merch, nonprofits' ability to fundraise on the platform, or for-profits' ability to raise investment funds. We are already talking to venture funds, actually, who really want to use our platform to measure impact, so that they can judge which companies to invest in based on how much impact early stage companies are creating. And all of this is bolstered and supported by a tokenized karma point system. That's our patent pending. And we reward those karma points when people have tangible impact, measurable impact in the community, and then they can spend those points in various ways. So our platform very much rewards people who are doing good, not just mouthing off.
Well, it sounds wonderful because I think almost everybody agrees social media is broken, and with all of the good things that it has in many ways brought a whole lot more damage than it has brought good. So yes, those clickbaits, those dopamine loops, they degrade our mental health. But let's separate signal from sentiment. And how are you going to prevent Yuvoice from essentially falling into the trap that all of the other social medias have essentially fallen into?
Yeah. So I think part of the reason current social media is quite terrible to be on is because they reward bad behavior, because bad behavior gets advertisement eyeballs. So it's not just that there's a system that broke, it's that they're intentionally promoting outrageous content that gets people addicted to the platform. They hire psychologists to think about how people can get addicted. They look at content that catches the eye through extreme viewpoints or outrage, whether that's because you say something that sounds very clickbaity, even if you don't 100% believe it. If you phrase it like this, people will, rage comment, so you'll get more views. Or even something as simple as, they do cooking recipes and people are using so much butter and oil or so many ingredients because that creates a visual call, and then you feel forced to watch. So all of that is intentionally promoted. So half of the answer is just having a platform where we don't make revenue based on how many ads we sell. In fact, we're an advertising free platform, and our goal is not to promote as much outrageous content as possible. That's not how our feed works. So part of it is just not intentionally incentivizing bad behavior. The other part of it is we're intentionally working with nonprofits and think tanks about how to create a psychologically healthy platform, because that is how we attract people to our platform. And then we have these marketplace alternatives that are a wonderful way for good people to make money, and then for us to also make our platform cut of that money. So the alignment between impact and capital is one to one. One of the large problems with today's social media is that they have two completely different interests. One is their user experience, and the other is making their investors happy. Very often, making money is directly antithetical to having a healthy or honest experience online. Whereas in our case, making money comes from our users having an honest and healthy experience online. So I think that's a large part of how we get around it. We're not trusting anyone to be better than anyone else morally. We're just incentivizing the correct actions.
Well, incentives certainly do make a huge difference there. And yes, I would agree that bad behavior is definitely incentivized because that's who gets the attention. And shifting that, I can see how that could make a significant difference. The question is, it all sounds good, but where is the proof that this is going to scale without collapsing into spam and gaming and performative activism like it so often has done?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we did have a pilot that was quite successful. Of course, with a pilot, you're kind of choosing the people who come, and they're the people who are most passionate about what you're doing. So that's not to say that it's going to be exactly the same when we launch. But our pilot was insanely successful. We had over 70% of folks signing up to, I think ended up 85% actually ended up mentoring. Which was our incentivized rewarded action. We had over 10% ended up doing more than 40 hours of volunteering, high lead impact volunteering to actually work towards goals within their community in our few month pilot. So just incredible results. So even if we did, half as good, a tenth as good, I think that would be a much higher ROI than you're looking at on current platforms. The second thing that I would say is those are all different questions we've put a lot of effort into thinking. So for example, how do we prevent spam? We have a lot of innovative AI practices on our algorithm. We have a lot of, and we don't use AI user interfacing AI. Like, we don't have AI bots on our platform. We're very much using AI to help support the quality of what we put out there on the back end. And so one of it is reducing spam. The way in which we have people verified when they come on board helps reduce spam. It's kind of how we build profiles. So just like there's less spam on LinkedIn than Facebook, that's built into the type of people you invite onto your platform from the get-go, and how much you incentivize real name usage, government ID verification, et cetera. So we do all of that. When you talk about gaming the platform as well, it's something very similar. Not only do we heavily incentivize honesty in various different ways, including by promoting people who have posts that are fact-backed, we also have huge penalties and suspension if you're going around lying about impact that you didn't do. We also don't heavily rely on user reporting of their own impact. That's why our community model is so important. So we interview and train all of our community moderators, and a part of that process, and we're supported by a nonprofit to help with that, because that's a huge cost and a huge lift. And a part of that, the reason for that, is so that everybody knows how to verify impact within their communities. If you are organizing a local river cleanup and 20 people show up, and you're like, okay, we're offering 300 karma points for each 2 hours or hour that you're volunteering, you know who showed up, you know who was there, you can kind of verify it, you can assign those points on the platform. It's a lot harder to game. Anything where people are self-reporting impact, we have procedures in place to verify that they actually did the thing. We're only allowing that for folks who have government ID, or they've shared government ID with us, even if they have an externally anonymized platform. So, but I think a large part of it is these karma tokens have value, and so lying is fraud, and we do intend to take it very seriously, and therefore set the standard, the cultural standard on the platform from the get-go, that this isn't a place for that sort of scam.
And so all of those things sound like you put a lot of thought into that, and you and your team have looked at that in a pretty in-depth way. But you did mention that in your first trial here, of course, it's a select group, and they were incentivized from the start. So you had 80% action in your pilot. And as you mentioned, that really tells us a whole lot about your pilot group. But how is that going to actually translate into early adopters and to to what we really are going to have to see from an investor perspective, that real world stickiness?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think a part of it is people are so desperate for another platform right now that people will flee to a really cool new alternative that's pretty, that has seamless UI, and that is a great experience, right? Regardless of whether or not they may fundamentally understand or care about the impact rewards, because you're going to have great people who are really good people who care about impact, are coming here to make an impact, and you're going to have a lot of average users who don't yet know why impact matters. Originally, when social media launched, a lot of people did not care about fame, right? Like a lot of people didn't care how many followers they had because it was meaningless. Now it's like the biggest deal ever. Like just being an accidental influencer myself, I've had doors open to me that never would have been open to someone with my background. I didn't come from like a particularly wealthy or well-connected background. And not because I'm rich, which used to be the only way to open those doors, but because I have that level of social notoriety. So I think once we have our platform rewarding people for impact in a similar way, people will be incentivized to then come to the platform to chase it, to get those accolades, because now they're like, okay, hey, impact is the new fame, or is the new money. It's the new currency of the realm. The other thing is that with the kind of ROI we're seeing and with our growth model, we are not expecting, or nor do we even really want, virality out of the get-go. Our goal is to build a steady and strong platform. It's part of why we're focusing on a great UI prior to launch. This isn't like a rush an MVP out and then continue to add bells and whistles that might break. It's very intentional from the get-go. The reason for that is because it's 2025. Like, you have to create something from the get-go users are going to love, and then they're going to share with their friends, and then once we get feedback, they're going to share with their friends. So you want to be very intentional about who joins the platform. So it's very invite based in the beginning, very grow from cult users outward, measure at each stage, get feedback, and then grow from there. We're not relying on overnight growth or virality to reach the kind of metrics and financial rewards that investors are looking for. So that's better for us and our growth model. It's better for investors, and it's going to eventually be better for the future public offering, that this is very vetted by the time you're signing up and using it.
Okay. Well, one thing that you are anticipating is profitability from day one. That sounds extraordinarily optimistic. And is that just extremely aggressive and hopeful accounting, or how is it that you think you can be profitable from day one?
It's a great question. I also think that this may have been like a potentially quote out of context, or we're talking past each other. So what I should say is we are expecting revenue from day one. Profitability is usually something that comes along a bit later down the line. We are expecting profitability early stage though, compared. So for example, a lot of social media companies, the biggest ones that gave angels the biggest returns, were not actually profitable upon IPO, upon sale, upon like just growth in general. It's part of why investors can be more wary of social media companies, because they don't have a profit model. So what I do want to emphasize, and what I did want to emphasize, is that we do have revenue from day one. We are aiming to have profitability from our early years. Yeah, year one. And that is simply because we keep our costs really low. And even if our more aggressive profit models don't work, we still have very robust profit models within that initial 3 to 5 year angel exit time period, as opposed to, oh, hey, we need another series and another series to stay profitable. We don't plan to rely on valuation alone. So a lot of social media companies, their money comes from the stock value increasing over time. In our case, we also have a plan to just make money the honest way. And a part of that is just because we facilitate a lot of marketplace transactions. We take a marketplace cut. Some folks have started calling us more of a social marketplace instead of a social media platform, or marketplace with a social media element. And so it is the marketplace where most of our profit comes from. The other thing we do have is corporate sponsorship. So corporate sponsored communities that are branded around partners, those we do charge a per user per month fee, kind of like a licensing fee, but it's within our platform. Because we run the moderator, we're awarding karma points, we're sort of running that community for them. But if it's a company or a corporate or an organization account that they've branded and they've tagged, unless it's an official partner, unless there's some other thing going on, those are getting charged at a per user per month fee. And that also helps us stay profitable early on. Just to be clear, anybody can create a community on the platform. They can go through the interview process. They can pitch. For normal users, we are completely free, like any other social media platform.
Well, talking about the profitability, you have a couple of slides here showing the returns, essentially, that angel investors were able to receive from various different social media startups, even though they had not attained profitability at the time that they went public and their investors received their investments and their returns. So I'm going to share that and let you talk through that.
As you're pulling it up, I will mention in general that I think social media companies that have achieved any measure of success, I think, have done really well for angel investors specifically, because even for companies like Twitter, which I think famously is not worth as much now as it used to be, angel investors still made a killing off of it because obviously it's sold on and got acquired by Musk. And before that, it had a lot of these companies have had Series A or Series B funds with other exit opportunities. A lot of them have gone public and there have been incredible opportunities. So even when there hasn't been a really clear, how are you guys making money model, the stock values usually hold very well as long as there are a lot of users and there's a lot of engagement. The understanding is there will be a way to turn a profit in the future. We don't like that. So we're like, here's our way to turn a profit from the get-go. But it's as long as you have a strong user base, there's usually strong investment value in social media companies. So it's sort of like there's two ways to win, right? Like as a social media startup, there's two ways your value can hold or grow. One is direct profit and the other is just how many users you have, even if there isn't a profit. But yeah, thank you for sharing this. So yeah, Facebook had an angel ROI of over 200x. A lot of the early angel investors, despite the fact that they were not quite sure how monetization would end up working, or the full metaverse had not launched yet, they still made a strong return. Obviously, some folks held on to shares to this day and some exited. So Facebook is a great example of the success. If you want to continue to the next slide, I can also touch on some of the other companies. Instagram obviously was acquired by Facebook. A lot of folks made a lot of money in that sale. A lot of early investors earned 20 to 40x on their checks. This was actually, I think, a very, very fast exit, one of the fastest. This was a 2.5-2 year exit. So obviously that is something that's incredible. That's sort of the unicorn dream, is that you're exiting very early and it's still a really high ROI. X, this is what I mentioned earlier. Even for folks who are like, hey, is an excess value holding today? It's not holding that great. Yeah, but for angel investors, for people who invested early, they managed to get incredible returns, up to 30x returns. In fact, when the founders sold Twitter, they made a killing off of it. That's why they sort of sold Twitter to Musk. So it did really, really well. And it obviously also grew to a lot of users very quickly, was in the impact space for a while, was short form. So there's a lot of elements of Twitter and now Blue Sky's feed, the feed itself, that inspire the way Yuvoice's feed part works. Of course, we also have the community and marketplace side, but I do think Twitter's feed model is one to look at. There are also a lot of users who have fled Twitter now and are still not quite sure where to go. Some folks have moved to Blue Sky. There's mixed response to Blue Sky. Blue Sky obviously is just the feed part, not the marketplace part. So I do think a lot of the folks who are still trying to figure out where to go from Twitter are still looking for an alternative, and that is actually probably, I would say, one of the bigger social media exodus markets Yuvoice taps into. So this is possibly a more relevant example. And at 30x to 15x, 10x to 15x ROI here. And then Tumblr had a Tumblr. I think the interesting thing about Tumblr is that it's one of the lesser known social media platforms. So one of the reasons we studied Tumblr was just to talk a little bit about that model I was speaking about earlier, when even if you don't necessarily have the number of users or the growth rate from more famous social media companies, the fact that Tumblr had users and had users who were passionate about the platform, cult users who really cared. So even though it didn't have as large numbers, and even though it was very community-based, very fan-based, people had a lot of those strong clubs, like sort of what Yuvoice is modeling, despite the fact it did not have as many users, and despite the fact Tumblr has never been profitable. Like, they're still trying to figure out what the heck to do about how to make Tumblr profitable. It still sold for 1.1 billion and had 10x plus returns. Obviously, Tumblr is one of those companies that is not doing that great right now. They have not figured out how to be profitable. They don't have a profitability model at all. However, Early Angels did very well, again, because their cult users were passionate. They had strong engagement on the platform. And this sort of goes to show that even if option A, B doesn't work, option C is still really, really strong for companies like ours. LinkedIn is, I think, another great example for us because our profile pages are very, very inspired by LinkedIn. Our goal is to sort of be a LinkedIn summary of people's volunteer background and people's do good impact background, sort of like your professional portfolio. We help folks build their do good portfolio. So LinkedIn did really well, had an angel ROI of 30x plus. It was acquired by Microsoft. Obviously, a lot of companies that Microsoft's investing in these days are doing very well. So LinkedIn continues to have a very strong profit model. I think they are continuing to figure out how to be as profitable as possible, but they obviously make money off of recruiters, they make money off of premium, they make money off of ads. And because they had that premium subscription model and B2B model from the get-go, they actually have a profit model. So yeah, the Angels also did really, really great in LinkedIn. And so I hope this sort of explains how many different elements of what Yuvoice has done, from the profile side to the community side to even if it's just users who are very passionate about the platform, that creates a strong angel ROI. There is also already, weirdly enough, interest that I have gotten from folks who work at some of the existing social media companies for acquiring parts of Yuvoice's model or for using parts of Yuvoice's model as we grow, including the Karma Impact System. I do think as we grow, there will be a huge desire for folks to try and copy it or cannibalize it or buy it. And because there obviously will be people coming to our platform who previously were spending all their time on Facebook or elsewhere. We aren't a direct competitor for content creator media the way I look at it, because we're not trying to make influencers. So if you want to make a ton of money being an influencer, you want to sell your products, still go on TikTok to do videos, or you go on Facebook and you can sell or Instagram and sell your bags or your makeup products. That's not our platform. That being said, I think that over 60%, 66% of Gen Z say their activism is online, and over 80% of consumers buy on beliefs. So if you have a company with a really high impact score on Yuvoice selling makeup products, the same makeup products that might be sold on a TikTok or somewhere else, chances are more and more consumers will want to come to a platform that's measuring impact and companies' impact scores and users' impact scores. At that point, I can imagine a lot of companies will want to take a piece of Yuvoice, and they may want to invest in it. They may want to acquire it. We're very passionate, to be very, very open. We are very passionate about doing our thing and on being our own large competitor in the space. Our hope is that copycat companies will change the way that society works. So a decade from now, people really care about impact, not to get acquired by an existing company like Meta, but I share it for market valuation purposes.
Well, thank you for that, Isvari. I think that is very important for investors to have something to compare to when they consider, is this a place I want to put my money? And just comparing Yuvoice to other startups with really who had less footing than what Yuvoice has, the returns on those were just absolutely phenomenal. So thank you for sharing that with us. We have heard this mantra before. Well, it's not social media, it's a movement. But every platform that opens with trust ends up fighting for attention. So the architecture of engagement just seems to be there to corrupt ideas rather than to really foster positive and meaningful transformation.
I think it's a really valid point. This is a big critique I have of current social media. So I totally agree that you have to be very careful about what you incentivize. I think a part of it is a lot of people define movements today as people talking about things, not doing things. And we really define movements or change making. We usually talk about change making as like change making. Even if it's three people and you go and you clean up a beach, that's awesome. You just did something. It doesn't matter how many people, it matters how much you're doing and getting done. And you could have 3,000 people talking about the environment online and doing nothing. Sometimes I feel like that's what's happening. I don't mean to like hate on activists, but and I think a lot of activists are doing good, but sometimes I feel like a lot of activists are just trying to prove that they're better than everyone else online. And like that doesn't, I'll say this as well as an influencer who talks a lot about politics and talks a lot about the social justice. And I'm trying to inform people and keep people posted about the world we live in. And I share news. I often think that it's best to tell people how they can do something to change or make an impact. Like call your congress member, you can volunteer in these ways or drive people to the polls, not just like, are you the perfect, insert whatever here. Are you the perfect liberal? Are you the perfect conservative? Because you said this one thing and that thing is bad, and now you should like. I don't think we should care about those things. I think we've hit the point where people care about that stuff inordinately because we live in a social media world where likes, outrage, fame, and these movements based on cult-like following of specific people are what works. And I think most people do not thrive under inordinate amounts of public attention and public scrutiny and then public criticism if you misstep. Most people really just want their community to appreciate them. And there's a lot of research about this as well, where your third place matters, your church or your religious institution or your school or your neighborhood association, whatever it is. And those places are dying. And so we really want to be a third place for people to hang out besides their home, besides work, where they can get to know people. And the approval of that community, those 10, 20 people you're actually working with matters. And those relationships matter because people are happier and healthier that way. So, yeah, I think a part of it is we just don't define movement as the go viral for saying a woke or unwoke, whatever it is you care about thing.
Well, you cite the 45,000 pre-launch subscribers. So what's the plan for the conversion from the waitlist to monthly activity?
Yeah, so we actually have an entire. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
So our CXO team at the nonprofit is actually helping with that plan right now, and a part of it is we are locking a few of the community moderators we want to be on our platform from the get-go. In the beginning, these are going to even be a part of our beta, so you may not even see that content by the time it gets live. It's just to make sure what we're doing works, and a lot of those people are consistently excited, I think, and asking about new platforms. The other thing is we aren't really over reliant on what happens if we don't have 10,000 users or 20,000 users or even 10 users day one, because users will come and we want to make sure that as users come, they stay. So that is our priority. There are literally there's like 8 billion people in the world. If a platform even captures the interests and the time of 0.0001% of that, right, you're a very successful platform. So the problem isn't finding users, it's making sure users are doing what you want them to do. You're incentivizing the correct behavior, they're having a great time, and then they're inviting their friends. And then you grow exponentially, and at some point you have mass market control. You don't get to 1 billion users by getting to 1 million users overnight. In fact, if you get to 1 million users overnight, the chance of making 1 billion users is very low, because in 2025, there are already large existing social media platforms that have massive companies and teams that can do incredible they're clearly not doing incredible moderation, but they could do incredible moderation. They could have all of this, right? They can throw money at things. They can throw money at trying to squash startups, all of that, right? They cannot exactly force people to stay on their platform. So what you really want is that long runway. You want people to get passionate about what you're doing, and you want people to stay. When you look at companies that didn't do so well, like Clubhouse, but had a lot of hype and went viral short in the beginning, it's simply that they invested too much too early on like celebrities on the platform to attract folks to come in, and then they weren't able to really continue that growth or that interest. So Yeah, so a part of it is, yes, we do have a lot of early newsletter subscribers who have signed up for the platform. We have obviously the nonprofit support. We have partnerships with a number of different folks we're looking at who want to use Yuvoice from the get-go for their audiences. Some of those partnerships include religious institutions. They include governmental or non-governmental organizations who want to use our platform in their countries. And all of that is wonderful. And there are ample opportunities like this because people are so passionate about this model, and we have a community model, so we can provide a community like, here you go, big church that wants to measure impact, here's a community, and then they bring all their users. So what we need to focus on is getting the marketplace right, getting the model right, getting user behavior right. User acquisition is one of my lowest concerns, to be honest.
Isvari, as you're talking about this, there is it sounds like a fair amount of monitoring is going to go into this. And it's not only from the team monitoring, but each nonprofit that comes on is essentially going to be monitoring their own content and what have you. So my question is, how does this moderation prevent itself from becoming censorship and shutting down actually freedom of expression?
That's a great question. So our public feed is something that we monitor and moderate, and that we have pretty strict guidelines on not squashing people on, for lack of a better word. So that is like our public text, primarily text or text only short form, think Twitter in its heyday feed that anybody can post to at any time. We are not rewarding people for eyeball usage, therefore not for outrage. So the feed is still going to look very different than the types of content you see on Twitter, simply because we have a better algorithm. But in terms of visual feed, you still have the opportunity always to post on that. The second thing is that you can create your own communities as long as they have a strong impact goal, and then those moderators are responsible for their communities. Our only requirements for moderators are sort of legal requirements that you're not like, okay, if you moderate your own community, you cannot suddenly allow illegal activity on that community. That's still our problem. Just don't do that. But short of that, I anticipate different community moderators are going to moderate their communities night and day. Some people may be like, you can post whatever you want. Some people are going to say you only get to post on this narrow topic. You can do images, you can't do images. Like, I'm sure moderators will have many, many different ideas on how they want to run their own communities. As long as they are meeting their impact goals and they are not, doing illegal things, gender discrimination, racial discrimination, child pornography, whatever, then it's fine. They can moderate those communities as they wish, which in fact is a little bit, so it's not just, we don't just protect freedom of speech and freedom of expression, we really protect freedom of association as well, because people have the right to sort of create communities that make sense to them and then create impact within those communities. The reason our public feed is not like that, and we don't promote content that is like everything else you see, is because we don't want to be an echo chamber. So we don't really let people go ahead and be like, hey, on my public feed, on the home feed, I only want to see content about this specific topic. And if I don't want to see content from people challenging gun rights or whatever, we're gonna be like, okay, well, that's not a thing you get to say. So I think a part of it is, we control the public feed, community moderators control their community feeds. Nobody gets to do anything illegal, but and there's some things we just ban, like you using the C word, or like there's some we have AI controls that and backend controls that we've decided to make sure it stays a healthy place. But we're very much in favor of folks sharing healthy debates and community. And part of the way we keep it healthy and we keep it respectful is actually modeled in what LinkedIn has done. So as you can imagine, on LinkedIn, people are not actually saying the same things they would say on Twitter or the same thing they would say on Reddit, right? They tend to be a little bit more measured. And so we have a very similar model when it comes to encouraging people from the get-go to use their real names, to build their strong one profile. You don't get to create 10 anonymous accounts, and to really, take ownership of that and want to come with their best self. So, hey, I agree. I do this. I agree that venting is really important. There's ample opportunity and space everybody should have to vent and get angry and just mouth off about how much they hate XYZ. This is not the platform for it. That just, it doesn't help anything. If you do that, you're just not going to get eyeballs. It doesn't create impact. Okay, but how are you going to make things better? I understand that sometimes you need to vent to then be in the space to make things better. Which is awesome. There are tons of platforms for you to do that right now. You don't need to come to Yuvoice to do that. So, yeah.
Well, let's wrap this up here with essentially this last question. I may have a couple more, but one thing we haven't really gone on to is the use of the proceeds from your raise of 1 million. Can you break it down in the burn, the runway, the public launch, and milestones that where you're going to be unlocking these funds?
Yeah, so I'm going to be very transparent about like exactly what we've planned so far and where we still have wiggle room and why we came with that. It's actually like the million number. It's actually we did like a really in-depth plan on how much funds we need. It was actually like 1.035 million, but basically a million. And a large part of that is making sure we build the best product possible. That's a good 300,000 of that is just development, cloud space, growth, ability to grow quickly if we do go viral. This is actually part of why we want to grow steadily and not suddenly go viral. Is there are technical considerations when that happens, but we need to prepare for that possibility. So setting up all of it back end, front end, having a gorgeous UI, having our platform work, going through our beta testing process, releasing the product to the public, that is all what the largest chunk upfront of that money is going towards. Obviously, in addition to that, we are planning to spend some amount of those funds on admin salaries and the ability to keep running even if we have a later Series A. So we really want to create our product and wait until the correct market valuation time to then have a Series A, Series B round. So this is sort of running both our angel round and our seed round. We've done so much research and we have so much product availability. We have our users, we have this nonprofit backing, we have partners ready. So, but we are still pre-product, pre-launch. So we're a little bit angel, a little bit seed. So for us, it's that entire early round. And then after this, we're planning to go into a Series A round. So we're planning to have this last until then, which means until early users, until beta, until full public launch. The other thing we wanted is the ability for that million to take us to sustainability if needed. And so that will allow us to make sure we have partnerships with companies that will be paying for those communities, make sure that we have a way to monetize early users. Even if we go viral, we suddenly have a ton of data on the platform, we can afford to store it and retain it. And then some of that as well will go towards filing patents and keeping our patents active. Patent filing and managing patents actually really expensive. We are very, very fortunate to have had pro bono attorneys and some incredible donors and funders working with us throughout that process. And of course, I've funded a lot of it myself, like every founder. But I think it will be good to make sure that we retain and hold our IP into the long term as well. So yeah, that's a little bit of what went into that 1.035 number and 1 million number for the angel round. There is also a lot of interest from some crypto investors for an early Series A round on the tokenization side. That is something that we might be able to explore as well. But short of like we don't necessarily want to have an external cash influx buying our tokens unless we are sure that that allows us to still retain our impact model. So the $1 million also gets us to a position where we are able to work with some of the world's best tokenomics experts to design and implement a token model that does not get corrupted by external capital. So this is also part of the reason why if you look at the profit model or business model on our pitch deck, you'll see that it doesn't include the value of tokens as a part of our business model. We are profitable without that, and a part of that reason is also why we're looking for this $1 million capital upfront, which is to stay independent if needed from capital influx that's token based.
Let's wrap this up with this question. If you can just really sum up for us, why would an investor want to invest in this angel fund? We've talked about several things, but if you can just kind of sum that up and bring it all together.
Yeah, totally. I think the same reason that hopefully users use our platform as well, which is to make money by changing the world. So that's my sum up. I think a lot of investment opportunities, you get to make money, but it's not necessarily making the world a better place. There are a number of investment opportunities or donor opportunities where you're able to give funds that make the world a better place, but your ability to make money off of it might be a little bit less. I think the way in which we're unique is that our whole goal for investors, for users, for us, for the future of the world is aligning capital and impact.
Well, very good. Well, Yuvoice is seizing the moment to disrupt social media by making activism profitable, healthy, and scalable. The platform's proven model, elite leadership, and billion user vision position it as a rare chance for investors to achieve excellent returns while shaping the future of civic engagement. But opportunities like this don't wait. If you'd like to learn more and explore this exclusive investment, visit go.steedtalker.com/impact. And we look forward to seeing you there. At Steed Talker Capital, we believe wealth is not just about numbers, it's about aligning prosperity with purpose. So until next time, keep building those streams of impact that flow into a future of freedom and prosperity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into Streams to Impact, brought to you by Steed Talker Capital, a company empowering passionate professionals like you to develop multiple streams of passive income built on solid passive real estate investments. As a significant part of our endeavors to make a cosmic and meaningful impact for this world, Steed Talker Capital contributes significant portions of our profits to activities and organizations committed to better understanding the equine. These endeavors attempt to enhance the treatment of horses worldwide. Steed Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures great and small flourish abundantly. If you are ready to learn how our passive investors have earned an average 33% annual return on their investments, schedule your complimentary passive income to Prideful Impact consultation. Obviously, we cannot continue indefinitely to offer these valuable consultations for free, so grab your passive income to Prideful Impact consultation while you still can. Go to steedtalker.com/passive